about those. I want to encourage you all to do your best to pay attention to your feelings and your body and your heart tonight as you're listening to these presenters. Tonight's moderator, Doug Sadownick, I'm going to turn it over to Doug now. Doug has been doing gay-centered inner work for over 2 decades, and a gay-centered psychotherapist as well, and writer and activist. And so now, Doug, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Roger, for giving us such a good, comprehensive understanding of the history of how everything came to happen from the Radical Fairies onwards, and then the development of the Institute and Mitch's pioneering work. I'm going to interview Chris and Mitch today about this momentous occasion, a follow-up from last month about the development, like Roger mentioned, of an advanced training program in contemporary Uranian psychoanalysis. The very first time in human history, certainly modern human history, that we have the development of an institute devoted to homosexual self-realization. It's really mind-boggling. And we're going to talk some about it. We did last month already kind of introduce the training program, go over a little bit how we did that, and we're going to extend that conversation today by extending the conversation and talking about some of the core documents that form the way that the Institute is going to take place, the advanced training program of the Institute is going to take place. Before I get too much into that, though, and start to engage Chris and Mitch, I should mention that, like Roger mentioned, I'm having to deal with my psychological trauma. I'm really both nervous and excited. I don't know which one I am more of. My nervousness is manifesting in this papers. I don't even know what they are. I printed them all out, all of the documents. There's duplicates here. It's kind of an image of my kid and the sensation problem and chaos. And the way I try to grapple with my inferior function and my gay shadow. The shadow is a Jungian term for the personification of both this moral inferiority and violence. So I don't think it would be really appropriate to, talk to Chris and Mitch and interview them. I feel, kind of caught in my inferiority, and I should address that because in a way, dealing with our inferiority is at the heart of what is at the training. Dealing the doorway into the gay shadow, into what's really the most disavowed and awful place inside of us and inside of me, and I'm trying to be upfront about that and authentic about that and not hide it, even though I'm probably hiding it right now, and learning how to address it in different ways, as a little kid, as a parent-child, as one's violence, as indulgence, as arrogance, as all kinds of different things, is tantamount to actually being able to get a handle on oneself. And also, more importantly, how to open up to the homosexual transpersonal. Because that gay spirit, that idea that we're called to gay love is really the big aspect, the big interest thing here for all of us. And we can't do anything if we're not facing our shadows ongoingly, our gay shadows, our lesbian shadows. So I thought I would do my best to. I'm probably going to have to talk a lot about it throughout the evening. Okay, so trying to partner that violence in that way that I get out of my body. Let me just say a few words about what we're doing and what we did last week, what we're going to do today, and then see what happens when I interview Chris first and Mitch. So as Roger mentioned, we had this idea, if we're going to get more serious about the Institute and about gay-centered inner work, and what we're calling contemporary Uranian psychoanalysis, what does that really mean? How do you really do that? So these monthly talks and getting together and all that kind of stuff was good, but in terms of actually really doing what we've been doing for years, Chris and I meet, mostly meet weekly. Mitch and I meet weekly. I meet with Dustin and Roger and Wendell too, pretty regularly, and the work with Chris, especially in developing the intermediate group, and before that the Gay Soul Talk was, frying and cooking and confronting and me screaming at him and him calling me on my violence, and before that I was a client of Mitch's and I was a real pain in the ass, and I had a terrible authority complex, and I had a very bad negative transference. So we've been working on this idea of facing your shadow in a more sort of consistent, ongoing and rigorous way for a long time. So it just seemed that all of these talks, the club meetings and everything, if we really wanted to encourage you folks to get more involved, which you obviously are because you're here and you come.
It's fun to get.
Yeah, right.
I
know. I had a dream about you last night in regards to that, actually. Yeah, I could have mentioned it if I have a chance. I don't want to be too indulgent, but I will definitely mention it. It was a dream with you, Dustin, and Wendell Whitmore in it, actually. Yeah, it was by the seashore. We got to a big fight, and you called me on my stuff, and I started screaming at you, but then I realized I was acting out my violence. And then the scene shifted, and we were like eating like vegetables in the ocean. We were living in Dustin's house. Very interesting, but it was a nice ocean, warm summer, kind of, a feeling that eludes me most of my life, of actually feeling like at home and at peace, if one could say such a thing. So that was the dream last night. So I guess that's the idea to answer Chris's question. It's not a lot of fun, but the idea behind it is that if we keep working on transforming this bullshit, there is an elusive feeling of, the transcendent function, or marrying the opposites, or sexual transpersonal.
I had fun.
Yeah, I had fun too, actually.
I had fun.
Yeah. Over the years.
I mean, even when it was ugly.
Right.
I think there was a level where it was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, something really intense was happening.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a dull moment.
No.
That's for sure.
That's true.
And it was erotic. Right.
That's right. There's certainly that.
It was erotic.
At least hidden somewhere.
Right. John, you're being really weird right now. It's so
erotic. That's erotic.
But if you okay, if I work with my stuff, I'm projecting my violent father onto Chris, and he's a bully, right? But if I, try to do active imagination, which I was always very successful with, then I could see that he actually was trying to help me, and it was my violence that was violent, not his confrontation. It took years of learning how to do that, and we're still in the midst of that struggle.
In case you hadn't noticed.
Right.
Hey, while we're at it, Doug, could you maybe introduce? I don't think Chris has been introduced. I got introduced by Roger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't exist.
You.
I didn't get it. I was going to get into that. I had it written down, and I was going to.
I don't think it's bad or wrong. It's very interesting.
Right.
It's banter and
Yes.
stuff. It implies the whole history and
Yes.
stuff, and why is he up here and stuff. Obviously, he's involved
Yes.
in all this.
And thank you.
Not the seriousness of that, it's particulars or anything. I just thought it'd be curious to frame it.
That would probably be a good idea. I totally agree with that. I was absolutely right. So this is Chris Kilbourne, a licensed Hollywood psychotherapist and a gay activist. He's kind of Hollywood. He's kind of glamorous in a way. His grandfather wrote The Wizard of Oz, and how much more Hollywood can you get, actually, if you think about it. I mean, it was a dissociative moment, but to be sure.
Ask me what it's like to be in Dustin's house.
Well, not only, but in part. Why doesn't it?
It's your dream.
No, I understand.
Oh,
I understand.
you're wondering.
Yeah, I'm wondering. So this is Chris Kilbourne, a licensed psychotherapist who practices in Hollywood, and he's actually also a writer. He's been working on a book called Lavender Self-Awakening. Chris has a big entry in that book. He's helped me with my writing for a generation. He has been involved with Mitch in the development of the vision of gay-centered self-realization for 30 years at least. 32 years? 32.
As of yesterday. As of yesterday.
32 years. That's some commitment. That is some major commitment, right? If you know Chris, you know he's very committed to gay spirit, that's for sure. And has been involved with the development of True Roots, the nonprofit educational institute devoted to gay self-realization, which birthed the institute and was very involved with the development of the institute. He was actually its president. He was my supervisor for many years, and he now offers me weekly consultation as he does other folks, and has been one of the main visionaries behind the development of the advanced training program at ICUP. and has been involved in the development of some of the key literature, some of which we're going to talk about tonight. Helping us with all of the materials, but especially involved in the application packet. Really involved. Some people get into that, how that worked. That was interesting. That's Chris Kilbourne. How's that? Is that reasonable? I wanted to share a little bit about what we did last month, but maybe I don't need to do it, because last month we talked about the application packet, which was important. We actually started sending out applications to 5 folks who will be part of the advanced training program, which will start in August.
If they get accepted.
If they get accepted, yeah, that's
And thank you for that adding that training detail.
it's very
This is
important.
an application.
Right. If they get
Following that
accepted.
myth for this.
Yes, definitely. That's an important myth. Absolutely.
Glad you mentioned that.
Thank you for making me remind me.
Well, you're just being public.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For the record.
And they have, in the process of completing their applications, I think they did complete them. Actually, just we're in that time where that's all happening. And then there's actually an alternate track that's developed. That Chris actually had the idea of working with some folks. So there's an alternate track that is being also working on advanced training issues too. The stuff that we talked about last week, there's 2 modules in the advanced training program. One's a core process, which Chris is...
Both is core process.
Oh, sorry. Both are core
I
process.
haven't read the outline clear enough.
Yes, both are core
I
process.
might do this, by the way, at times, again, just for the record, because otherwise important issues are being misrepresented. The core process training seminar is broken down to 2 modules so as to emphasize 2 different aspects of what you'll see when we go over the outline. It's called the educational component, meaning an activity itself. In the one case, reading and writing and discussion of reading and writing. In the other case, helping to put on this club meeting every 4th time, for example, the times that the club is put on to present on the topic of what I am learning now, vis-a-vis learning about gay centered in the work, in the flesh, and the actuality, that kind of stuff. So that each of these modules emphasizes in a somewhat different way
Yes.
the engagement with the core process
Yes.
training.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Thank you
they're
for that.
both the same seminar.
Yes, they're both the same seminar.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, because I actually tried to memorize that several times before I left the house, but I was so disembodied and nervous that I kind of figured I would get, like in my writing, I would get that, I would make that big. Yes, both are core process, and there's 2 different modules. Thank you for that clarification.
By the way, Doug is alluding to an aspect of his process that comes out also when he's trying to write. For example, if you might write something that we might be looking at, I might be looking at as an editor of it. The same kinds of difficulties just touched on here will come out in that way too, because of the historical, recreative experience of early traumatic state of dissociative non-presence, non-filmness, that then shows up in such, you might call them symptoms. So we're just pointing out there. The task is to become an effort more and more sincere and authentic embodiment of folks with vis-a-vis. It shows up, which is why it's worth it for us all to comment on it and try and be with this kind of stuff. Ongoing, not really for the sake of noting these matters per se, but because there's important issues here. Most ultimately, I would suggest the problem of humanization of humans. We call ourselves humans, but
Right.
it's a laugh. It's a laugh. And there are more tragic or sad metaphors than that. Which is the tangle we're all in. I'm sorry, I don't want too much, but
Absolutely.
to point out the context a little bit, contextualize a little bit of our process here. What Doug alluded to earlier also, that we've been in this process of like dealing with subjunctive processes as they show up interpersonally, intersubjectively, has been a hallmark of this pioneering attempt to be more authentic and active, politically activist simultaneously vis-a-vis this problem of homosexual personhood, first the legitimacy of homosexual personhood, and its fuller fulfillment and actualization as such. It must be a living phenomenon. It doesn't mean anything. It has to be living. It's absurd. It's nothing. It's not intended to be lived.
Absolutely. I appreciate you pointing it out to me, because it connects me, even though at first I felt very ashamed that I had been so lame. And as I partnered that toxic shame, I felt like that